Hello, guys. Sorry about that. Nice to meet you guys.
Hello.
Hello, Lily. Hi.
Nice nice to meet you too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So,
Good evening.
good evening. Good evening. So we have kind of a motley group, don't we? I believe I was told initially that it was students from Lincoln High, and then I was told subsequently that it's open to the public.
Yeah.
So yeah, we probably have a quite an array of students in this class, and I'm happy to have that.
I'm
How many of
from
you are?
Lincoln.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I love it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You can talk.
I would prefer communal interaction, even at the cost of a little bit of chaos, to then just have people just sit there and refuse to participate, refuse to ask questions, etc. So I'm very excited to have you guys here. This is great. Any of you history majors?
No.
No.
That's okay. That's all right. Are you guys of Latino origin?
Yes.
Great, great, great. That's great. Yeah, I have it's strange. I thought I never thought of myself as WASP. But especially my name sounds very waspy, Derek Scott Cowell. Um, but doing the DNA thing, I supposedly am 14% Iberian, which is Spanish or Portuguese.
May
Um,
I ask what Oh, sorry.
no, no, please.
Yeah. May I ask what WASP is?
WASP is White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And so it mainly is the demographic of Englishmen that colonized our future country on the East Coast.
Thank you.
No, no problem. And
Um,
so, matter of fact, I'd like to talk a little bit about that actually, about the writing of history on these topics, if that's okay. All
Yeah.
right. But before I do, are there any other comments or questions?
no.
Is it okay if we
Uh,
like have our cameras off?
yes.
I'm sorry.
Is it okay if we like have our cameras off, or is it like mandatory to like keep it on?
No, no, it's not mandatory. No, it's okay.
Also, for the assignment, you on the first one it says like what is the information convey about the Aztec blood of Latinos, and then there's a different question on the actual assignment. Do you want us to do both?
No, actually, and matter of fact, you don't have to do either of them. It's an exceptional case in which there is not a clear-cut thesis on this handout. This simply is I wanted you to derive meaning of some sort, especially if you happen to be Latino, as far as anything that you believe has contributed to Latino culture to this day that perhaps has survived, or something that the Aztecs symbolized to you, something in light of blaming the Spanish on the conquest, which we're going to get into next class. It's known as the Black Legend, whereby the Spaniards are the awful bad guys, and the Aztec and other indigenous or Native Americans were somewhat innocent victims. And so, speaking of which, that's what happens a lot. Is well, you know what? I can't wait to get into it. But firstly, let me mark everyone that's here. All right, because while it is not, I understand people have schedules. Some people perhaps have to work. Um, no one is docked any points for not being here today, but nevertheless, you can gain extra credit. All right.
Oh, let's go.
Yay!
There you
Also,
go. See, and you
for
never know
the
when those to what degree those extra credit points might really help you. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna need
thank
it a
you.
lot.
Also, is it okay? Because I did the second prompt on an assignment. Is it okay if I just turn it in, or should I redo it?
No, no, no. By all means, I would turn it in. I'm sure it's good. Like I said, everyone, just for the effort of the first one, because there's not a definitive thesis that you're trying to discover, everyone is going to get an A for effort on this first assignment.
Thank you.
No, no problem.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, you know what? I thought it was interesting, right? Is what led me to kind of doing it piecemeal like that, one seemingly, area or subject and set of facts after another, is that that's the way that the original books were. See, the Aztec and the Maya are unique amongst Native Americans in that they let's see, is there a font you want us to use? Oh, no, not at all. Akshavarana, that's a great question. I go by a very simple precept, and that is this is a history class, not an English one. So I'm not picky about font, format, etc. I want to see that you've analyzed and evaluated what you've read. That's all that's important to me. No, anytime. Thank you for asking that.
Excuse me, Professor Cowell.
Sure.
Did you say something about the Aztec assignment being optional?
No, sir. No, no, no. No, the Zooms are optional. The Aztec assignment, just putting forth some effort will merit an automatic 100% on this first topic. But no, please do it, okay? Yeah, by all means. Not only for the sake of your grade, but also, right, I'm mandated to drop no-shows. For the one-page answer, do you want APA format? So again, Anaya, that's what I took many years ago, was the APA format. You do not have to though. Like I don't sweat the format at all. Okay. So yeah, just I'm just looking for the content of what you write. But at any rate, yeah, please, if you would, please do this first assignment, okay? And then also, for the sake that I have to drop no-shows. And because these are not mandatory, I can't just simply say, okay, because someone's not showing up to any of the Zooms, I need to drop that person. So instead, what I have to go by as my measuring stick is a combination of those showing up here and those who are turning in their assignments. So if I get, a no-show on these first couple Zooms, and I have that same student not turn in either of the first two or three assignments, then I'm pretty much mandated to drop that person. Okay. So yeah, please turn in your assignments, especially the first one.
Don't worry, we will.
All right. But so let's see here. See here. Getting these down. Let's see here. Thank you, Mr. Kyle. I had already begun the assignment, and I just wanted to make sure. No, no problem. No problem at all. All right. So, getting into the topic, okay, what I want to do is I want to share with the document at first. All right. So here's the Aztec assignment. But from a certain type of tree, right? They have, oops, I guess I chose the wrong one. Sorry about that. They chose the bark of a certain type of tree, and they wrote and binded uh, books, the Aztec and the Maya. And singularly, it's known as a codex, and plural, the plural of it is codices. Okay. So with that, can you guys see the assignment now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So with that, okay, you have it's a little bit disparate, right? For lack of a better adjective, disparate, right? It's like when you have, a set of facts over here, and then it almost seemingly random jumps to another topic about facts somewhere else. That's just simply how they did it. Uh, Part of the reason was is they didn't do it all at once, right? They would have one generation feed off of what had previously been placed into the codex by the prior generation. So, for instance, right, you'll look and you'll see um, the deposition of a king who was assassinated, and another one comes up to his place, and the very next page, I kid you not, you'll have an Aztec father holding his Aztec son over a burning fire, and they're burning chili peppers, and it is for having a disrespectful tongue to his father. They would make young boys inhale chili smoke. And so it's just that that's the way they're organized. So if it
How is
seems that
this?
way a little bit when you read this, please keep that in mind. That that's the way that the codices are organized. So I did my best to just try to summarize, try to translate and summarize that which I put together. But I also meant there was also a little bit of meaning and deliberate nature to what I chose. So the first one, for instance, right? Uh, who doesn't like a rags to riches story? So you see that right with the Aztec, them coming from the place of Las Garzas, the crane birds, and coming down southeast. So by the way, if they had traveled southeast for quite a few leagues, hundreds of leagues, um, the argument was during the Chicano movement that perhaps the famous Aztlan, the famous homeland of the Aztec, could be in present day Estados Unidos, US, perhaps like in the New Mexico area in the Southwest. So that has political ramifications also. But at any rate, when you see this first one, right, you have this cool rags to riches story. They fought as mercenaries, they were enslaved. A gentleman named Tezozomoc plays the villain in this part of the book, and they are told through um, the shaman of their tribal god, who happens to be Witchpoltli, to bide their time, that their time will come to obey their masters, to fight for them, and they'll know the right time to rebel and form their own dynasty. And so, at any rate, it's a pretty cool story. And that's where they get, the icon of the Mexican flag, because which Potoli supposedly told them, right, that you will see in Lake Texcoco, you will find a nopal, a cactus, and perched upon it will be an eagle, and you'll have clutched within his his fangs the serpent. So at any rate, it's just I just thought it was pretty cool introduction, as far as, because a lot of people have origin stories, right? And by the way, going back to history of this stuff, okay? What happened quite often with the English is when they wrote, oftentimes, let's face it, right, that the winners write history. So the English colonizers on the East Coast of the U.S., they depicted the natives as a combination. It was almost always the same. It was either that they were like naive children, innocent to that which is pertinent to civilization, and therefore, right, there's this condescending approach, like, oh, you naked little children that they came across like in the Caribbean with Columbus. You're so backward and ignorant of the ways of the world. Let us teach you our ways, right? So that's one way by which the English and the Spanish tried to justify taking land from the Native Americans. And then, of course, the other one was just downright demonization, right? Contending literally using their Christian religion, which was quite strong culturally and by institutions in the early modern era of the 15 and 1600s.
What does the fastest man alive do?
So at any rate, they would contend, right, that they were either childlike and incapable of ruling themselves, or that they were like living devils, being unknowingly led by the devil himself, not knowing anything of the Christian God, etc. So at any rate, it depended upon the initial writer in each region where they, quote, discovered the Native Americans. It depended on the tribe. and if they went to war with them immediately or not. But those tended to be the two stereotypes. But then what happens, right, during the civil rights era is college students and professors began writing what they call conflict history. And what they believe is that conflict is what triggers the direction of history. That it's all about competition amongst different categories of the population. The fancy word is demographics. So demographic could be by gender, by age, by ethnicity, by your socioeconomic standing of what you do for a living, right? So in conflict history, they look at competition and fighting for power and wealth and prestige between different demographics. And what they want you to do is they want you to sympathize with those who, quote, lost. Now, we borrow from sociology three different categories that we tend to put history in. One is political. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? If you get to rule the government, if you get to devise the type of government you want, you technically politically won in history. If you have the lion's share of wealth, land, and resources, and also if you get to decide what type of economic system your society is to follow, you clearly economically won. And then if you get to dictate culture and social mores, what's considered right, what's considered wrong, right? Then socially you have won as well. So with conflict historians, after the Chicano movement and the civil rights movement, a lot of the Chicano books, still to this day, are written in conflict form. They show how Latino people have been wronged in this country. They show how before that, how the Spaniards victimized the Native Americans. And of course, they want to elicit your empathy, your sense of
Professor Cowell,
outrage. I'm sorry.
uh, I have a question.
Yeah, no, please.
Am I not gonna get the extra credit if I leave early? Because I have to go now.
No, that's okay. I mean, if it were like a regular occurrence, I may not give it to you, but of course, this first
Yeah.
day, you're absolutely fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Cowell.
All right, nice to meet you, bud.
Nice to meet you too. You have a good day.
You too. Bye bye. So at any rate, that's where we find ourselves here, right? Is you find yourself between kind of two extremes of either absolutely making a villain of the Spanish and the English colonizers, and very much making heroic people and figures of the different Native American tribes, or what's known as court history, court, like a king or queen in his or her court. If there's a queen, right, like Isabella of Castile, Spain, and she asked a court jurist who was like a lawyer and a law interpreter and so forth for her. If she asked her court jurist, I want you to write a history of me and of my kingdom. Clearly, right, that historian is going to select certain facts and leave other facts out deliberately. That person is going to interpret those selected facts in such a way that justifies the queen and makes her look wonderful and exceptional, right? If he wants to keep his head, he'll do that. So, therefore, to this day, we call that court history when it praises the winners, okay? So, again, like with U.S. history, George Washington and the founding fathers praised up to the skies, right? With court history, but with conflict history, right? Where they want you to empathize with the demographics that lost. Then it's quite a 180, right? Then George Washington becomes a white slave owning hypocrite. Okay. And another name for that also with conflict history is the generic title for it is revisionist history. And to revise something, you change it, right? So you take the original writing of something and you revise it. And oftentimes to this day, revisionist history, because the original historical accounts are praiseworthy of those who won, revisionist history usually is very cynical and very harsh on those who won. Okay. But the Spanish are a little bit unique in that from the get go, despite the fact that they had Spanish chroniclers, a chronicler is someone who was there and then at that time participated in the events here in the Americas as a Spanish soldier or priest, etc., and then chronicles what he or she observes and participates in. Okay. But the problem is, right, you look at those chronicles, and right off the bat, you have to remember a Spaniard, just like any other human being, to a certain extent, might arguably be formed by his environment and his upbringing. So what you're really looking at is you're looking at the Native Americans from the perspective of an early modern Spaniard who had his own way of looking at things that arguably were quite different from the way we look at things today. All right. So you can't fully take at face value what the chroniclers wrote. Okay. Not to mention they're going to want to justify if they went to war with a native tribe and defeated them and took their land. Okay. Or subjugated them. So at any rate, we're kind of in line what I meant leaning in this certain direction because I'm going to go from different directions. I don't want you to care where I personally stand on a given issue. It doesn't matter. In this class, I want you to learn not only some of the most popular debates and conversations that historians have on given topics. The fancy word is discourse, right? I not only want to introduce you to popular discourse on certain topics, but I want you to think for yourselves. I want you to analyze what you read critically and come up with your own conclusions. All right, that's what college ought to be about, in my estimation. So at any rate, but I think I was leaning a little bit toward um, kind of praising perhaps the Aztec and some of that which they accomplished. Um, if you'll indulge me another before I get more back into the details of this, okay? If you'll indulge me just a quick coverage of the European colonizers' idea of what is civilized and what is not, okay? And so oftentimes it was reinforced by anthropology as well, if you take an anthropology class. And it's the idea, right? A very simple evolutionary idea that mankind has gone culturally, right? From being very primitive and simplistic to being more and more complex and sophisticated and modernized and progressive and forward looking. Okay. So, what type of criteria do they use? What kind of measuring stick? Well, for one, the European colonizers wanted to know, did the Native Americans um, alter their landscape, literally, physically? Did they build cities, paved roads, um, grand places for thousands of people to be able to cohabitate and everyone to be fed in organized fashion, etc.? So did you manipulate the environment? Did you create any kind of monuments, etc.? Right? And another one is the advancement in the arts and sciences, right? Did you create any type of literature, poetry? Did you devise a system of mythology, right? Describing allegedly how we got here as human beings, what the purpose of life is, what are the major problems faced in life, and how do we address those problems? That all that's entailed in really in an ideology, in an organized belief system. So do you create anything of that sort? Do you show curiosity about the surrounding world scientifically? Okay. Another one also is technology. Are you open to technological innovation? All right. Then another one is, do you develop a complex society? And by complex, they just mean um, a variety of different classes formed. So not just simply everyone is a hunter-gatherer, not simply the dichotomy of a ruling class that does no work and then the laborers who farm for them. But do you become more of a complex society than that? Okay. Do you have merchants or traders? Do you have artisans or skilled workers? Do you have a team of lawyers and legal advisors and some type of legal system? All right. Do you have a military and religious hierarchy of any sort? Okay. And so forth. And then the other criterion that the Europeans will use to decide if a given tribe is considered civilized or not is religion. And let's face it, the Native Americans had no chance satisfying European demands um, for religion for the very simple reason is they had not been introduced to Christianity, Catholic or Protestant. All right.
Mhm.
So at any rate, I'm trying to somewhat defend the Aztec in some of this in some of these sections, okay, that I got from the codices. All right. So notice they had a sophisticated system, a pantheon of gods, right? Describing how we got here. Clear to they added to and gave different names to what the Maya had already devised. It's a lot like what Rome did to Greece after they conquered Greece. They took the Greek pantheon and most of the myths, embraced them as their own, and changed many of the names and some of the details. So the Aztec did that from the Maya, by and large. The whole idea that there are, um, three different levels of heaven, nine different levels of an underworld. Everything is undergirded by four sacred trees at the different cardinal points. Um, and that there is a lot of duality in life, good and bad, pleasant and unpleasant, life and death, etc. Right? So oftentimes that dualism is demonstrated in their myths. So they usually have kind of mischievous, malicious deities, and then some are there to save mankind and help mankind out and play more the good guy role. And then, of course, however, they're more complex than that. There are nuances in which the so-called good deities will will go after humanity destructively, and so-called terrible deities will create self-sacrificial acts of virtue. All right. So one common manifestation of that is that you almost always in all the different tribes had a good and an evil twin. That's where they get that term, the evil twin. All right, and so but notice with some like with number one on the religion and so forth is a lot of this that I put together when I was looking over through in the codex. A lot of it, to be honest, reminds me of medieval Japan. In medieval Japan, right? It was all about honor. If you were very well off, then greater was your responsibility to your fellow man, to your subordinates beneath you, and to your society at large to contribute to the greater good, right? The term we use is noblesse oblige, Noblesse, and then separate word oblige, the nobleman's obligation. Okay. And so notice, right? You have different deities who sacrifice themselves for the sake of humanity. The one I think of first of all is Nanawatsin. Nanawatsin was allegedly the first one to throw himself into the sun so that the sun would agree to circle the earth continually. Because of course they didn't have an earth-centric, no one did at that time that I know of, had an earth-centric, geographical outlook. So at any rate, the nobility, they could not be found publicly drunk. They could not be found physically beating the poor. Okay, they had higher standards for the nobility amongst the Aztec to pay it forward for society. Their judges were well versed in their cultural customs and their legal codes, and their judges could get in grave trouble if they showed any partiality, especially to a rich and well-born man as opposed to his poor adversary. So there's a lot of honor involved with the Aztec. Okay. Um, Notice as far as a complex society and as far as meeting some of those criteria that I mentioned, oh my goodness. Tenochtitlan was only the most famous of their cities. Okay. They believe it hosted at any given time about 250,000 people. Okay. It had paved roads. It had limestone, stucco, jade, marble, pyramids, and grand structures. Some were for administrative purposes, and others were purely for religion. All right. They had taken and run with the mathematical, astronomical, and written system of the Maya. Okay. As far as their knowledge of astronomy, their streets, kind of like the Street of the Dead in Teotihuacan, the streets were aligned with the Pleiades and other constellations of stars. On the equinox or the solstice times of the year, in the spring, fall, and then the solstice in summer and winter, they had the sun right perfectly at noon go perfectly down their main Templo Mayor, their main temple, right onto the sacred space of the altar. They had a 365-day calendar. There is evidence that they too, like us, had reason to believe that they were a little bit off on that one, and that an actual year is about more close to 365 and a quarter day, right? They, like I said, their buildings were just incredible, tied in with their knowledge of astronomy. They had astronomical observatories. They had schools, a school system for commoners and a school system for the aristocrats. And remember, in Greek, aristoi means the best. So you have an aristocracy. They claim that by bloodline, they're the best in society and entitled to the most powerful positions. Okay. So they have all this. They had, you guys, terraced, whereby they would terrace the sides of hills and mountains, irrigated farming. They had floating gardens. They had zoos. They had libraries. They had hospitals. It's crazy what they devised. Hernan Cortez, when he saw Tenochtitlan, Mexico City, of the Aztec, he pretty much said, Seville Spain has nothing on this place. That he was very impressed. All right. So you have all that going on with the Aztec. All right. But yes, ever since their belief that Nanahuatzin had sacrificed himself for the sun to do its part yearly, it usually ended with each what they call in English a bundle. See, the system was so versatile that they took from the Maya. There was a number, and a number, by the way, a straight line was 5. A dot was 1. So if you had a straight line and 3 dots over it, that meant 8, right? They'd have a number, and then next to it, they would have a sound, just simply a symbol of a sound that you make phonetically. And then thirdly, they had a pictogram, a picture usually of something, an animal or a geographic entity. So all combinations you can get with a given number, sound, and pictogram would exhaust themselves in 52 years, known as a bundle. So at the end of each 52-year bundle, they did not know if the sun was going to rise again. So a new sacrifice had to be made. So at the end of each 52-year bundle, the Aztec and others would sacrifice humans and their hearts to the sun god. All right. And clearly, when the Spaniards came and they saw the infamous skull racks of those that had been sacrificed, the bloodstained steps to the temple of Huitzilopochtli, the pits of snakes on each side of the staircases. To Hernan Cortez, right? This is all of the devil. And he let that be known, his opinion, to Moctezuma II. And it caused a rift between the two, according to a writer and chronicler known as Castillo. But nevertheless, right, you have these components. And what I thought was interesting also was their stoicism. Remember Marcus Aurelius and the other well-known Roman Stoics? They contended, right, that much of life is inevitable. Human will can do very little to change fate, personal fate, or macro fate for everybody. And the best thing that you could do is remind yourself that whatever role you're meant to play it with grace, play it with class and stoicism. All right. There's no use in getting upset. There's no use in self-pity. You have to give your permission to become angry or sullen about something that has happened to you as a larger event around you. And so notice, right, some of these sayings, if you've had a chance to read this yet, they would tell their children, the Aztec would, life is about suffering. Get ready for it. Take it on with valor, with courage, with honor. Don't do anything to besmirch your name and your family's name. Right? Like I said, a lot of that reminded me of Tokugawa, Japan. So much on honor.
They seem to have very similar systems, no? Like both based on social systems.
I think so, Aaliyah, absolutely. I agree with you. I definitely, yeah. And I'm not really well versed in Tokugawa Japan era, but I know I've read a few books. I've taken a couple classes, and absolutely, it rings so familiar. That quote right there, I'm going to pass up for next week. Okay, if you don't mind. But perhaps you've already read it. But look at here, right? Virtuous Aztec. are obedient and honest, treating their fellows with respect and showing discretion in their dealings with others. And I love that word discretion, right? To me, it implies not only um, a lot of common sense and shrewdness, but also virtue, right? Virtuous men and women work hard, whether in the fields, at their sewing, preparing food, in an artisan's shop. An artisan is a skilled worker, or in the marketplace. They bring energy to their work without overindulging in sleep, but rising early and laboring for long hours. They eat and drink in moderation. Drunkenness is particularly frowned upon. They do not make a great noise when eating, think carefully before speaking, and are circumspect in what they say. And to me, that circumspect, right, is that you're just down to the detail. You're very deliberate in what you choose and not choose to verbally say. They dress and behave with modesty. Children are raised to understand and follow this code. All right. So that is from a priest named Salgun who lived among them. Let's see here. You see number 2, right? Like I said about the Stoicism. Make sure that you show moderation. And again, moderation is huge in Japan, right? Avoid excess in all things, right? Even too much of a virtue can become a vice, according to Aristotle. So moderation in all things. Take that medium road. Children were not suffered to be incorrigible, kind of like the word you could see in Spanish within it, corregir, to correct someone. If you're incorrigible, you can't be corrected. You're stubbornly defiant and stubbornly lean the wrong direction. Negligent, right? Being very negligent in your duties, or idle. So they're into being very disciplined, very modest, very moderate. I thought it was interesting also some of the parallels with morality, despite the obvious, right, of human sacrifice. So, for instance, they had a goddess of impurity. Okay, and you would go to in the Spanish chronicles, they would just call them papas, these religious leaders. You'd go to a shaman of this particular goddess of filth, and you were to confess your filthy deeds, and then you were to bloodlet some part of your body and shed some blood into a sacred bowl. You would be told mantras to say and to pray to this goddess, and then you could come home feeling like you had been cleansed of your sin. All right. So when the Catholics came and imposed the sacrament of reconciliation, right, which was once known as penance, they were absolutely prepared for that. There was very much a parallel there. Therefore, their kids holding on to their virginity, male and female, prior to marriage. And certainly not that that always happened, but that was at least how high the bar was, long before the Catholics told them such. All right. Again, you see there on 7, so much about honor. If you did something to dishonor yourself, you would be told societally to cut your hair. And that was seen as a great, great loss of public face. Another thing that was kind of parallel with, oh, and by the way, another thing, right, is that when they were told the gospel, right, that mankind is sinful and that Christ died for their sins to have those sins covered by his blood and expunged, they'd already had that concept of that there needs to be the shedding of blood for the forgiveness of trespasses. And so again, I'm just hitting the surface from what I've read as far as parallels with the religions, despite the obvious, like I said, obstacle or stumbling block of human sacrifice. They had different orders. The Jaguar Knights were the highest within their military, and you could earn your way up through valor in battle. All right. And so, not much different from Christian Europe. Arguably, the two primary avenues of what they call socioeconomic ascension. Um, Socially, right, the prestige of what you do, economically, what your occupation is, and how wealthy you become. Socioeconomic ascension, moving up, right? What we call, access to the American dream today. Were largely found through religion or through the military. All right. So that's another parallel. And by the way, with the grand exception of human sacrifice, it is true what some Chicano historians highlight, and that is that oftentimes with many tribes, they already had a finite number of captives that they planned on capturing, either to sell, to enslave, to forcefully adopt into their tribe, or to have sacrificed, right? So they had a finite end, arguably, in their battles. And a lot of it was to do with who had tribute and power over someone else, for sure. Practical necessity. A tribe up in the U.S., for instance, known as the Iroquois, they called it a mourning war. Not mourning of the day, but mourning with a U in it, right? As you're grieving. If they had a big sickness come and wipe out a lot of their warriors, they would deliberately start battles so they could capture warriors from other tribes and adopt them as their new warriors. And Aztec did that as well. So what point am I getting to? Is you can make the argument that the scope of warfare, yes, the Aztec and others clearly fought one another. Winners would demand tribute of those that they had defeated. Okay. But as far as just fighting to kill and maim as many people as you can, as arguably was happening in the early modern and medieval Europe, the Europeans kind of stepped things up as far as arguably the brutality of warfare when they came. And the Aztec and others wrote about that, about how ruthless they thought the Spaniards were in their fighting. So you see there in red, but with extra privileges and power came responsibility. If you guys have seen Apocalypto, that is a downside with the Maya and the Aztec. They did have what was known as the Pochteca. The Pochteca were state-sanctioned armed merchants who were given quotas as far as going and capturing prisoners to sell and to be sacrificed. All right. So at any rate, are there any concluding comments? I know this is very finite. There's so much more. But as far as the information that I was able to share from these codices about the Aztec, does anybody have any, significance that you derive from any of it, as far as your view of the Aztecs, your view of the Latino people, etc.?
They seem to like be very religious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, do you believe that like I've heard most Latinos or like Mexicans are like very religious people. Do you think it like derives from that?
Oh, I would think so. I would definitely think so because you could, Aaliyah, you could make the same argument from both their European roots as well as their indigenous roots. Clearly, the Aztec, I could not agree more with you. The Aztec were that their religion was ingrained in virtually every facet and every task of their day, as Aztec people. And then you can make the argument that Spain had an especially religious history, that England and other European counterparts did not have. All right. And I don't want to give too much more of that away right just yet because we're going to talk about it next topic when we go over the Black Legend. Okay. Um, by the way, why something bad has to be black, that's just a can of worms I don't want to even try to open right now. But what the Spaniards contended was depicting them as bad guys, colonizers of the Americans, is a black or dark legend. It's a lie. Okay. And how exactly, in what ways were the Spaniards depicted negatively? We'll get to it next assignment, but basically, that they were religiously fanatic and intolerant, that they were violent, that they were exploitative, taking advantage of Native Americans, and that their society was very undemocratic, very hierarchical. Those are just some of the main negative depictions that the Spanish were given by English, Dutch, and French contemporaries during the 15 and 1600s. Now, some of it, was it clearly envy, jealousy? Absolutely. Because after all, right, in the 1500s, the Spanish, everybody contended that the 1500s amongst the Europeans was Spain's century. In fact, the Spanish called it to this day El Siglo de Oro, the golden century. So you got to keep that in mind. Their enemies are are largely behind the Black Legend, but is there some truth to the Black Legend? We'll look into that next. But like I said, the reason why I mentioned Natalie is what you said, is that you can make an argument that there was a kind of a special path of Spaniards that highly revolved around religion, more so than it did for other Europeans.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So anybody else have any questions or comments?
I don't.
Okay, thank you. Make sure that I have all of you here.
I was wondering, doesn't the Aztecs have their own kind of god?
Oh, absolutely. Uh,
Then why did they got like reformed to believe in like Christ?
oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Okay, for one, right, I'm just hitting the major themes that I've read, because that's the thing is I don't pretend to be, really intelligent. I really don't, but I've read a lot. And so everything that I'm saying, that I'm about to say, is basically regurgitation of something that I've read, rather than something quite wise that I wish I could share with you. But the most the fancy word is salient, just means it stands out the most. The most salient arguments that I've read, okay, is one, Catholic Christianity was imposed upon them. somewhat coercively. Okay. Secondly, Native Americans experienced, the Aztec especially, a sense of disillusionment with their gods for allowing the Spaniards to beat them and subjugate them. Okay. So you have that type of malaise where the Aztec were just beaten, their spirits were broken, and they're like, what's the use? Our gods didn't show up. We've been defeated, etc. Thirdly, is the Spaniards very shrewdly tried to prove that a lot of the religious deities and religious practices that the Aztec had grown up on were true, but they just had some details wrong. They had some names wrong, and the Spaniards were all too happy to inform them of these supposedly minor corrections. So, for instance, Ome Setiao is the creator god in the Aztec pantheon. He has Texcalipoca as his evil twin, and he also begets Quetzalcoatl, the good one, the good twin, feathered serpent. All right. I think it's really cool too, is a creator god creates humans, right? No different from an artist creating a portrait or a mural, right? But a human begets a human, right? A bear begets a bear. Like it literally means like give birth to. So they both had the notion that this creator father God begat, like gave birth to, in this case with the Aztec, to two sons. And of course with Christianity, to one son, right? To Jesus. So at any rate, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, he contended, okay, that they contend in their writings that he went down into the underworld of Mictlan, or as more popularly known by the Maya as Xibalba, right? He goes into the underworld. He collects the bones of the massacred race of men by his evil brother. He brings them up into the sun and sacrifices himself in recreating mankind. And Homosetial ensures that the feathered serpent, in sacrificing himself, is revived back to life. And so I don't need to tell you the parallels, right, of Jesus giving his life, and God the Father gives him a resurrection for his sacrifice. It's almost eerie, some of the similarities, the way by which the fancy word is syncretism, syncretism. Syncretism is when you find that which you have in common with another culture and people, and you mix the two together. Okay. So there was a lot of religious syncretism. Um, yeah, if you'll indulge me, um, I wonder if maybe I'll wait on that one. But as you're probably familiar with, right, is you also have the alleged apparition of the Virgin Mary um, to an Aztec convert named Juan Diego. And of all places, it happened at the goddess Tonatzin's um, her monument. So at any rate, needless to say, they're going to combine Tonatzin and the Virgin Mary.
Okay.
Eureka,
Yes.
please, you
I
have
got,
something to say?
huh?
Please, if you have something to say, I'd love to hear.
Uh, it's because I do know a lot about the Aztecs, about the, like the religious part and everything, and their sacrificial rituals and everything. But the part about them imposing like Christianity is like very interesting to me.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
No, absolutely, it is. And as you probably know, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here because you guys will read about it next on the next assignment with the
Uh-huh.
Spaniards. But they were given the mandate from the Pope himself, right?
Yeah.
Um, they were known as the Alexandrine Bulls. A papal bull, right, is an encyclical that becomes law when the Pope lays it out. And Alexandrine because his name was Pope Alexander the Sixth. So
Mhm.
Pope Alexander the Sixth gave his blessings to the Spanish and Portuguese and taking over Latin America, provided that they saved the souls of the Native Americans.
Hmm. From what I've seen is like there's lots of like similarities that the Christianity people like took from like their own gods from the Aztecs, but just like converted it into their own religion.
Yeah, like I said, there's no doubt that there was so many similarities that it makes you raise your eyebrows for sure, right?
Hmm.
And then being able to syncretize so well.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Yuritsa. I enjoyed that. All right, so before I let you guys go, it's been an hour. That's about perfectly what I wanted to do, at least the first day. I don't want to kill you off the very first day of the semester. But do you guys feel, and please be honest, if not, do you feel a little bit better equipped to try to organize these disparate facts into something meaningful for you?
Yeah.
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 Good. I
Slightly,
hope so.
yes.
Good. I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, it reminds me, right, of maybe some of you are familiar with Rodolfo Gonzalez's famous Chicano poem called Soy Joaquin. Yeah, if you get a chance, um, take a look at that. Take a look at that. SOY and then Joaquin, Joaquin. And I'd love to hear what you have to say, next time we meet about that poem. It's a really cool poem. All right, so you guys will get your extra credit. It is very nice to meet you. That is without any pretended enthusiasm. I love your enthusiasm. I love that you talk, that you ask questions. I love it already. All right, so you guys have a great evening, okay?
You too.
Thank you. You
You
too.
too. Have a good day.
Thank
You as
you
well.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.